Brad is the manager in Deceptive Marketing Practices Directorate of the Competition Bureau in Montreal. In his role, he leads both criminal and civil deceptive marketing investigations. Prior to joining the Montreal office in 2016, Brad worked in the Mergers Directorate in Toronto, where he supervised teams that reviewed the competitive implications of mergers and acquisitions in Canada. He has worked at the Bureau for 19 years and has a master's degree in economics. Bradley, thank you once again, and I'm delighted that you're able to come back, and nice to also hear from a local expert.
Thanks so much, Ruth. Delighted to be back here. Good morning, everyone. I was doing a similar presentation a few years ago with the Seniors Action Quebec. Unfortunately, I'm not back today with the best news that fraud is still continuing to grow in Canada. I wish I had a better story to tell, but my title of my presentation is How to Fight It. So Fraud Fighting 101. I want to talk a little bit about what we can do together to do our best to prepare ourselves and help protect ourselves. So as Ruth mentioned, my name is Brad Russell. I'm in the Deceptive Marketing Practices branch of the Competition Bureau. My talk today is going to pick up on some of the key messages that Jeff just talked about. We have separate presentations, but listening to Jeff talk, where there's a lot of overlap. I'll put a little bit more focus on the enforcement, because the Competition Bureau is a law enforcement agency, to tell you what we do behind the scenes with the data that you report and some of the cases that we have ongoing. Just a brief caveat that the views and opinions expressed in this presentation, including answers to any questions, are my own. They do not necessarily represent policies or positions of the Commissioner of Competition, the Competition Bureau, Innovation Science, Economic Development Canada, or the Government of Canada. So, brief outline, I'm going to talk about who the Competition Bureau is, what we do, a couple of key messages at a very high level, talk through a little bit of the common frauds, how to protect yourself, and focus on reporting and some different sources. Competition Bureau, who are we? What do we do? If you haven't heard of us, you're not alone. We're a relatively small agency. We're small but mighty is how we like to think about ourselves. We are an independent law enforcement agency with a headquarters in Gatineau, Quebec. We have regional offices in Montreal. That's where I'm currently speaking to you from. And we also have offices in Toronto and Vancouver. There are about 500 staff of economists and lawyers. And recently, with the development of AI, we've been hiring more data scientists and consumer behavioral experts, because we've had to change the type of expertise internally in order to better combat some of what we're seeing develop in the fraud marketplace. So what do? Well, in part, we help fund the CanadianAnti-FraudCentre that you just heard a little bit about, who provides us with excellent complaint data. And we use these complaints to start our own investigations. And we work in partnership with the RCMP, the local police, with the Sûreté du Québec here in Quebec, and as well the OPP through various partnerships, one that I chair in Quebec called the Quebec Strategic Partnership, that talks about the exact types of frauds that we're talking about today, brings together law enforcement agencies to say, who's doing what, how can we do this better, and how do we make sure that we're protecting Canadians the best we can and using our resources most efficiently. So we are meeting with all these different law enforcement agencies to combat this problem, because it is a serious problem. Within the Competition Bureau, I work in the Deceptive Marketing Practices Directorate. Now, that's a little bit of a mouthful. What it basically means is that we take on different types of deceptive marketing practices. So we'll do civil investigations against large corporations. And these would be corporations you deal with on an everyday. For example, in the news, you might have read that we are currently in litigation against Rogers, and we're suing Rogers about what we believe is deceptive marketing that they said about having unlimited data, which we don't in fact think is true. We are also currently suing Canada's Wonderland and DoorDash for what's called drip pricing practices, where they'll tell you a price of a product, but at the end of the day, when you're clicking through the website and getting ready to pay, there are more prices or fees added to that product. So at the end of the day, when you're checking out, that original product doesn't look like the same price that you originally signed up for and clicked on. So we think those practices are misleading, and we're trying to hold those companies account for it. We also do criminal investigations. And so these criminal investigations are a little bit more what Jeff was talking about. These can involve fake government websites, fake government benefits, fraudulent telemarketing calls, and all variety of different types of more hardcore scams. And in that case, we have the power to seek search warrants. And so we'll go to court, we'll get a search warrant, and we'll show up with our jackets on, with our badges out. We're not police officers, but we have the ability to show up with these search warrants and to seize information that is relevant to our investigation at these companies. So that's something that we do a lot of in Quebec, not only in deceptive marketing, but we also do it on cartel behavior. So various price fixing or illegal bid rigging that happens for different construction practices. And if you're in Quebec, you've probably heard a little bit about this in the past, that sometimes there have been some companies that have been up to no good, and the Competition Bureau has come down hard on them for those types of practices. So one thing you heard a little bit from Jeff is that the fraudsters are constantly evolving their tactics, and there's new technology that, quite frankly, is quite concerning and scary. We should all be a little bit concerned about how this technology is playing out. So not only can they hide their numbers when they're calling you, they can now say that we're calling you from a government Canada number. So they can spoof their call. And they can use these other AI tools, deep fakes that Jeff mentioned, I'll talk a little bit more about, to further perpetuate their scams. And it's something that we should all be aware of and concerned about. Now, everyone is a potential victim. I think it's important to reiterate and to bust some myths that seniors are the most likely to be frauded. If you go look back on that slide that Jeff had, it actually showed that seniors are the least likely to be frauded. That's something that we should all be aware of. There's a lot of people in their mid-20s and mid-30s that get frauded the most. So that's busting a myth, number one. Number two, unfortunately, what does hurt seniors in particular is the amount of money that you lose. And if you're lucky and privileged enough to have that nest egg aside for your retirement, it's something that you want to protect. And when you can get caught up in some of these investment scams, unfortunately, you can lose a lot. And that's something that we need to be very much aware of on this call today. What do we do about it? Honestly, knowledge is the best tool. We're not going to be able to stop this fraud. As much as the Competition Bureau, the RCMP, and other law enforcement agencies are doing their best, it's like playing whack-a-mole. We whack one, two other pop up, and we cannot get ahead of it. We're doing our best with the resources that we have, but we're not ever going to prevent it. One of the best tools is having sessions like this. So thanks again to Seniors Action Quebec for organizing this, where we can actually share some of the tools so people themselves can identify potential frauds and stop it from happening in the first place. That is really important. And one of the key messages is reporting fraud is preventing fraud. So thank you for all those that take their time to actually go ahead and report it, because I am the investigator on the back end that sees those reports and is able to action them in terms of getting concrete investigations going based on the time that you put up front to fill out those reports. So thank you for doing that. So if there's one slide to pay attention to for my next 15, 20 minutes, it's this one. We should all be concerned about investment scams. The link between investment scams and romance scams are significant, and these scams, quite frankly, are terrible. They're just terrible scams. Like I mentioned, they target seniors particularly, and seniors end up losing the most money in these types of scams. While there were stats from the Canadian Anti-Fraud, I also heard last week that the FBI said in the U.S., it cost U.S. residents $16 billion alone last year on investment scams. These are staggering numbers, and they're not going down. They're going up, and they're going up fast, and that is a major concern. So there will always be a new hype around the latest financial product. We've all seen it. You've seen those financial products change over time. Cryptocurrency is one that's talked about a lot right now. What we've seen a lot is these fake CBC ads. In the past, we've seen Justin Trudeau on pretending to be in a CBC ad launching a new cryptocurrency. We responded to that and asked Facebook or other social media firms to take those ads down because we know that they're fraudulent, and they have. And we're working with them to collaborate, so hopefully the social media companies can make sure that they're doing their part to be preventing this fraud up front as well. We've also seen all types of frauds on social media come up around investment scams. Elon Musk is used often. Other celebrities are used often about the latest Bitcoin or cryptocurrency scams. So the message I want to leave you with is getting rich quick is tempting. We could all use that extra cash in our pockets, but it's often going to land you in trouble. And thousands of Canadians are victims every year. And people lose their savings, they lose their homes, and there's so much shame that is built around this that they can even not even tell anyone about it. And it can lead to much more difficult outcomes for that individual when they're not telling anyone about it and they've lost their homes. So this is serious. There may be even people on this call that have clicked on these scams and invested money. And if that's the case, that's okay. You're not alone. I would advise you to report it to the Canadian Anti-FraudCentre immediately after this call. And while you're unlikely in most cases to get your money back, there have been circumstances where the government of Canada has moved quickly and worked with other government agencies, such as the FBI, and has been able to reverse some of those transactions. But you need to report it within the initial 24 hours to give them a chance to be able to reverse that fund or that transfer before it gets transferred onwards. So timing is key if you've lost money, so the sooner the better. I also want to highlight that some of the best scams don't ask you for money. And these are interesting. That's when they want to develop a relationship with you. They want to talk to you. They want to make you laugh. They want to share pictures with you. They want to talk about your dreams, their dreams, and how they're similar. And then they'll casually mention at some point how they made money. I have an uncle that had a tip at this crypto investment company. I made $10,000 last month. Incredible. Here's my new car that I bought. And they won't ask you for anything, but they'll keep telling you about their lifestyle and how it's improving on a regular basis until at some point you say, hey, do you think your uncle could give me that tip as well? And as soon as that happens, you got to watch out because that's when they have you. Because it doesn't feel like they're asking you for money. So the red flags, your guard might be down. The red flag might not be there. But they keep telling you about something and you say, I want a piece of the action. I want in. That sounds like a good deal. It's very human to do that. Be very careful about people in those romance investment scams that slow play that. And this can happen, as Jeff mentioned, over years. They are very sophisticated. One of the challenges from the law enforcement perspective is that these people are often not in Canada. There are compounds being built elsewhere in the world where there are mini cities that are created where people are often illegally trafficked into those compounds and forced to scam other people day in and day out for years. They don't have a choice. They're forced into it. And so these are challenges where Canadian law enforcement agency has to work with other governments to try and put pressure to close those compounds. But it's a challenge for us to be able to turn off the taps on this fraud because it's often not coming from Canada. Sometimes it is, but it often isn't. So the best thing that we can do collectively is to talk about it, is to normalize it. And in doing so, we will help prevent it by sharing some of the tips and tools, hopefully, that you've learned or you will learn from this morning's presentation. So we cannot talk about scams and fraud without talking about artificial intelligence. This is exploding right now in a multitude of ways. You have mass text messages going out. As Jeff mentioned, you have fake toll road messages that I receive often. You have fake job messages. And oftentimes you'll just have a hello or do you have time to talk message. And those ones are particularly interesting because you may be kind and you may say, I think you have the wrong number. And then they'll try and start a conversation with you anyways, hoping to build a relationship with you over time. So be very careful. If you get those messages, don't respond. My advice is to report junk and delete immediately. Move on. Artificial intelligence cannot replicate people's voices. So the grandparent scams, you may sound like one of your relatives that is calling about an emergency. These fraudsters only need 3 seconds of someone's voice now to replicate it. 3 seconds. It's unbelievable, the technology. It's scary and it's getting better every day. So be careful. They want to put you in a state of fear so you respond quickly without that ability to rationally think about what's happened. So try to take some time, slow it down, and investigate what's happening, or ask someone, share what's happening with someone else. That's one of the best tools. is to try and take some space. I want to talk a little bit about other tools that AI can be used to facilitate. Impersonation scams. So they can create fake websites, fake emails, fake investment opportunities. They can also run full-on conversations through chatbots. So your text message that you might be responding to might not even be a human at first. Oftentimes, they're automated responses, and AI can be used to automatically respond to those messages to thousands of people at the same time, which makes a fraudster's life more easy, and that's a concern for us. So what do we do about this? What are the best ways to protect yourself? You're going to see on this slide a list of things that are pretty straightforward. They're pretty obvious. Unfortunately, there is no magic formula to protecting yourself from this AI. The best thing to do is to take your time, find yourself not in rush situations where you immediately need to invest before the end of the year, or else there's going to be a tax implication. And you create a stress. When you create a stress, you might make decisions that otherwise you would not have made if you weren't in that context of stress. The fraudsters know that. They try and create a situation of stress for you by calling you and saying there's an emergency, or you need to invest now, or there's a limited time only. And so they're doing that purposefully to create stress in order to get you to act quickly without thinking about it. So you'll see on this list, be skeptical, play the investigator. Honestly, best you can do is try and take your time and be careful, and know that these things are changing on a daily basis. So talking about it with others, different strategies of what you've seen and what you've looked out for is going to be really helpful in sharing the messages amongst the different communities. Deepfakes, deepfake videos. So basically, these are a particular type of artificial intelligence that is used to alter or fully generate videos. And as I mentioned, this technology is evolving really quickly, but they can basically take any image. They could take this image. They have way more than enough content from this video alone that I've talked to be able to replicate my voice, my image in an entire new video. And there are websites where you can practice that. You can try it. You can play around with it to see how easy it is. But we need to be aware that the content that we're consuming has often been manipulated, and it's been manipulated for certain purposes. So again, what do we want to look out for? Well, there's some deepfake cues. Unfortunately for us, the technology isn't as good as it could be yet. It will be one day, and one day very soon. But you could still see the face might be a little bit off. Eye movements might be off. There might be a lack of emotion. They might not be smiling. They might not be moving their hands around. Or if they are moving their hands around, they might look a little strange. The video might look a little bit off. So that high definition video that we're used to nowadays might look like a little bit of those VHS videos that we used to watch, those home movies, with a little bit fuzzy. Maybe their face was a little bit, it's there, we can hear it, but it's just not the same quality that we're used to. So think about yourself. Are you watching more of a VHS style video online? If so, there's a good chance that's a deep fake. So keep that in mind as you're watching those videos. I'm guessing by the end of the year, early next year, that won't be the case anymore. Those videos will be too good. They'll be too high quality for us to identify with our own eyes. But for the time being, there's still some cues. So keep that in mind. So impersonation scams. So basically these deep fakes and other types of artificial intelligence are used to impersonate either a company or a business or a human being in order to draw you into some type of scam, whether it's a government scam or a business scam to get that personal money, to get your own personal money and take it away from you. So the last bullet I'll draw your attention to, being pressured to act right away. A legitimate business or government won't do that. So let me give you an example. An impersonation scam. This is an email that somebody had received. And okay, let's look at it together. The top line, Canada Post, postcanada.ca. Okay, that looks legitimate. Then you look in that blue and you say, do not reply. Okay. And then you'll see a little bit further down, there's an at hannah-den.com. That doesn't sound like something that I'm familiar with. Why isn't that Canada Post's website? Okay, that's a little bit interesting. You look at the core of this email and you see that logo. Okay, that looks maybe the same colors as Canada Post, but maybe something's off. It might not be the same logo. That's not the same logo. And at the bottom, they have a link to say to track the parcel now. You may have ordered something from Canada Post, may not. But if you did order something from Canada Post and you get this email, you might be quick to click on that track parcel now. And if you click on that, you might be inadvertently downloading software. So what I would encourage you to do is have a look at this email. If it seems a little off, look at that tracking number, copy it, and go to Canada Post website, drop that number in there and see what comes up. So don't click on anything in the email, but do your own investigative work just to make sure if there's some red flags that come up for you. Purchase of merchandise. So we often see this on social media. There's a lot of ads that want you to click and they'll draw you to their own website. And those websites are run outside of the social media companies. So there'll be fake websites, but they have a feel or look of a legitimate website. They're often used with celebrity endorsements, and they're often used on trendy products. So whatever the latest and greatest is, that's what they're going to be selling. In the last few months, the Competition Bureau has noticed a real bump in the Made in Canada claims as well. People are putting maple leaves on everything, trying to sell it to you. They're trying to tell you that it's from Canada, it's made in Canada, and they want to charge you a premium because of it. Oftentimes, that's not the case. And the Competition Bureau is working hard to shut down those websites and to block them from making those claims that they're Canadian when they're in fact not. And we've had a lot of good responses from the social media and the tech companies to help us out on that, to shut down those websites and those claims to make sure that we can protect you for your hard-earned money, not going to a product that was not in fact made in Canada, if that's what you want to spend your money on. So warning signs of purchasing a merchandise. We all like a good deal, but if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Verify the websites, verify seller's information. If you're looking at a product that just something seems off, try Googling it, try Googling the company. It could be as simple as that. And one of the top things you might see is the Better Business Bureau. They do a lot of work of identifying scams. Or you'll have other websites where people talk about watch out scam. And just all it can take is Googling the business name or the product name to see if somebody out there has already identified this as a scam. And then just a 2-second check might save you that money. So last one I want to talk about is watching out for subscription traps. Again, these are social media driven. They're usually trendy products. And what they want to do is they want to hook you into a subscription trap by offering you something free or a limited time offer or a ridiculously low price that you say, hey, why not? It's $5. I get to try this product. That sounds great. Be careful about those, because what often happens is in the fine print or even not even listed, you are signing up for that company to use your credit card to pay hundreds of dollars on a monthly basis after that free trial ends. And you might not see it. As an investigator, I have to look for it. I can't find it sometimes. Sometimes it's there and sometimes it's not. So be very careful about any types of free deals or free trials that could hook you for a long time and many months. And let me tell you, that is very hard to cancel. They are not available on the phone because they don't want you to cancel. They want to keep charging your credit card indefinitely. So be aware of trial offers that could end up being stuck with for a long time. I mean, a lot of these things, again, is going to be relatively straightforward. I don't have any types of big ground earth-shattering types of tricks for you. But the most common thing is that I tend to work is a take 5. Take 5 minutes to think about it. If that website is counting down, there's only 2 minutes left to fill out their page. There's a reason why that website is doing that. They're creating a fake sense of urgency to get you to buy without thinking about it. Those counters often reset when you're not on the website. They're not actually true. Or they'll say, 12 people are looking at that same product, Brad. You need to buy it now or else someone's going to steal it from you. Oftentimes, that's not true. So they wanted to make sure a sense of urgency. So the best thing you can do is to take your time. Talk to a friend about it. Be skeptical. Put on your investigative hat yourself and say, does this actually sound legit? Because oftentimes it's not. Reporting. I'm just a very similar message to Jeff here. Gather the information relevant to the fraud, report it to your financial institution or payment provider used, especially if you sent money in the last 24 hours. Go to your bank, report it immediately, and see if they can stop the transfer. They can reverse some of the transfers. But go to them first to try and get your money back, or your credit card to get them to null the charge. That can protect you financially right up front. Then the next step would be to report it either to the Competition Bureau or the Canadian Anti-FraudCentre. Now, both of us, we share the complaint data that we get. So one or the other is fine. But the point is just to report it. And it also encourages you to report it online. If Facebook has a good reporting mechanism, you can report it to them, and that's where it came from. I know this takes time out of your day. I know it's an extra step that we're asking you to do, but you're empowering investigators like me and my teams here in Montreal on the back end to do something about it when you tell us about it. So thank you in advance for that. We greatly appreciate it. That's all I have to share with you today. I know it's been a mouthful, but I'm happy to answer any questions, and I hope you had a couple of takeaways there that'll sit with you for the rest of your day. Thank you.
Paulina, do you have any questions for Brad? And we'll take just a couple because we still have another presenter.
So the first is, how safe is it to give your information to Equifax or TransUnion or anywhere where you get your credit report?
I mean, if you're dealing direct with Equifax and TransUnion, I would say that those are safe organizations to deal with. They collect a lot of different information, but the key here is to make sure that you're actually dealing with them. And you can go on their website and fill out the form, and you can call them, but there'll be a lot of other links that you might find that may look like them. And those are the ones you got to look out for.
Someone writes, I am getting many calls from the USA telling me to press number 7 in order to win money. I blocked the number and delete it, but I still receive the same message from different numbers from the United States.
Yeah, that's a tough one. In Canada, the federal government has a do not call list. So if you're coming from Canada, you can sign up and put your number on that list. International calls don't all apply to the same way. So we have to work on, the different government organizations that are trying to shut down those calls from even entering Canada. But you did a good job to block that number. And sometimes they're still going to get through. So continue to hang up, continue to block those numbers the best you can. And but other than that, there's not too much you can do other than make sure you're on that national do not call list that the government of Canada operates.
A quick one for me. We recently learned through the media that you talked about international compounds of individuals perpetrating fraud, and we recently learned that Montreal was a hotbed for grandparent scams. One of those rings was busted. Do we top the list as a province, Quebec that is, for any other types of scams that are kind of priority scams that we should be aware of?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. Grandparent scams are very significant in Quebec. While some of them operate overseas, there are local systems operating where people will come to your door and actually pick up the money in person, which is very frightening. There are also the bank impersonation scams is something particular to Quebec, but it's growing in other provinces, where they're going to say, your bank card has been compromised. We're going to send someone to come pick it up, put the PIN and your bank card in an envelope, and we'll take that away for you. We're doing you a service by protecting you, when in fact they are going to then drain your bank accounts. Those tend to have a lot of success in Quebec. Every region in Canada has their own unique flair on fraud, so it doesn't mean that Quebecers are more susceptible. That's just the particular flavor that's happening in Quebec right now.